All right, guys. Our next guest is the 9th-ranked UFC welterweight who is on a 4-fight win streak, coming off a big win over Dong Hyun Kim in September. He is currently ticking off names on his embarrassment tour and is making his Submission Radio debut. Colby Covington, welcome to Submission Radio. How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on Submission Radio.
It's our pleasure. Now, Colby, it's great to have you on the show, but we're wondering, what's life been like since your Singapore win? What have you been up to?
Oh, man, I just been busy, man, traveling, training, just hanging out with friends, just all over the place. So it's been good.
And where are you joining us right now? Sounds like you're going for a bit of a drive. Where are you heading off to?
Yeah, I'm actually driving from Miami, Florida to Coconut Creek, Florida. It's about an hour drive. So I just got done training in Miami with my best friend, Jorge Masvidal, and just heading back home right now to get some food and go to sleep.
Cool. Well, let's go back to a few months ago before your fight in Singapore. You were coming off a great win in December over Brian Barberena, and then you seemingly struggled to get a fight booked, even though you were calling out everybody under the sun. Why do you think it took so long for the UFC to book you against Dong Hyun Kim?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I pondered that question, and I thought about that a lot. I was like, what's going on, man? Like, what do I have to do? Do I have to go to the street corner and sell my soul and let the UFC know that I'm willing to fight for pennies? Like, what do I got to do, I had to go to the street and beg for a fight. I put a sign up saying, we'll fight for food, because that's the point I got to. I was willing to fight for food. So, I don't know what the deal was. A lot of guys were ducking me. That was half the problem. And then the other half, I don't know, man. That was UFC had to see my worth. So, I don't know. I'm just happy to get active and stay active.
Yeah. Well, we saw your efforts, and we remember that video you were talking about. I mean, the lengths you went to get a fight were amazing. And we remember speaking to you at UFC 202, where you mentioned the tough financial position you were in after the Wally Alves fight. Was this sort of another tough time for you, seeing as fighting is obviously how you make a living, and you were on the sidelines a lot longer than you expected?
Yeah, man, that sucks. I mean, I think it was 6 or 7 months after my win over Brian Barberena, since I got the fight with Dong Hyun Kim. So that's too long. We only get paid if we fight. So I'm hoping they could keep me more active. Let me get fights every 3-4 months. I'm healthy, I'm active, and I'm in the prime of my career. So I'm ready to make this run to the title. So I just want them to keep me active so I can show that I'm the best in the world.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a great win in Singapore, but do you feel confident that this time the UFC will get you a fight quicker? And has anyone spoken to you about when the next fight announcement might be?
No, I haven't really heard too much from my manager. He said they were looking for fights, I think they offered me to a couple guys, Neil Magny, Carlos Condit, maybe some guys like that, but, they didn't want to take the fight. So, now it's just about finding the right matchup. I want to go forward. I want the big test. I want to show my true colors. And the only way I can do that is against the big test. So I'm looking for someone inside the top 5. So when the UFC comes to me with someone in the top 5, I'll be the first one to sign the dotted line.
Wow. Well, before we get to some of those potential names, just talk to us about this embarrassment tour that you're currently on. What's the story behind the name, and why are you looking to embarrass the welterweight division, Colby?
I mean, dude, honestly, it speaks for itself. I mean, I haven't lost a round in my career. Okay, I have one loss, lucky fluke submission loss. Like, everybody knows, even the UFC knows, I showed up with a fractured rib. I have the x-rays to prove it. I had to get cortisone shots all week before the fight. It was a fluke win. It is what it is. Besides that, all my wins have been dominant. They've been embarrassing. I've been embarrassing everybody my whole career. Never lost a round. Never even lost a second of a round. So, that's what this is, the embarrassment tour to the title, man. I'm going to embarrass everybody in the top 5, anybody in the top 10. There's not a bad matchup for me. Everybody's a good matchup for me. So the name speaks for itself. It's the embarrassment tour.
I love it. I love the enthusiasm. But before we get to some potential next opponents, Colby, you posted a video on Twitter last month where you mentioned that people don't know the trials and the tribulations that you've been through in your life, and how you were sleeping on couches while your mother worked 3 jobs to provide for the family. Just talk to us about that time in your life, because I think a lot of people don't really know much about it. What exactly happened?
I mean, everybody's had their struggles in life. I'm not going to act like I'm the only one that's ever went through. Growing up, I didn't have the best upbringing. I had to work hard for everything I had. My mom had to work hard just to provide food on the table so I could even, get the right nutrition to be able to train. So, everybody's had tough times. I grew up in a tough neck of the woods, so you can expect me to have no fear, man. When I was a little kid, I was the kid that was on the block running around with no shoes and picking big fights with the 300-pound, middle schoolers when I was in elementary school. So, I got no fear, and I really do believe in myself. And And the trials and tribulations that I've been through have made me into who I am now, and it's going to serve me great into what I'm going to do in the future.
And talk to us about that relationship with your mom. Now you're obviously a big star in the world of MMA. Is she proud of you? Does she watch your fights? What's the relationship like now?
Yeah, she watches my fights. She's a big hardcore combat sports enthusiast. So, she watched every one of my wrestling matches. She watches every one of my fights. She loves it. She's very proud of me. And at the end of the day, that's all I want to do. I want to make my mom proud. I want to make my dad proud. They put so much into me. They sacrificed their life so that I could be in a position where I am now to chase my dreams and fulfill my dreams just by sacrificing their life for me. So, I just want to keep making them proud, and I'm not going to I know I'm not going to truly make them proud or make myself proud until I get that world championship, because that's what I promised them since I was a little kid. When I was a little 6-year-old kid, I said, Mommy, I'm going to be a world champion. I promise you, I'll work hard for it. I'll bring all the financial struggles. I'll take care of everything. Like, I'm going to do good for this family because I see what you're doing for me. You're sacrificing your life for me. So I'm going to give everything to this, Mom, and I'm going to be a world champion someday. So, I've seen it in my dreams. I promised my mom since a little kid, I'm not going to be proud or content, and I know they're not going to until I get that world championship.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's talk about some of the potential opponents that obviously you've called out. I know you said that you want someone in the top 5, but you and Rafael dos Anjos, you guys had some back and forth not too long ago, and you've really wanted to fight him for a long time. Where exactly did that rivalry and that sort of beef stem from, Colby?
It just kind of stemmed from when he was coming up to welterweight. Just the way he was acting, man. He was acting entitled. He was acting like, give me the big fights. Dude, you just lost 2 fights in a row at 155. You're going up a weight class and you think you're going to get a top 5 fight for a number 1 contender spot? I wanted to let him know that this is my division now. If you want to get to the title, you're going to have to go through me because I'm trying to get to the title too. So, I was being real. I said the truth, and everything I did was real, man. He's a fake champion. He's an ex-champion. He's on the decline. I mean, I tried to get a fight with him and asked multiple times when he didn't have a fight scheduled, and the UFC offered it to him, and they wanted to make the fight, and he wouldn't take the fight. He was acting entitled, like, no, I want a bigger fight, this and that. So that kind of pissed me off, and we had some heated words in Singapore after our fights. I just let him know that he was next, and he better hope that he don't sign that contract because I'm going to hurt him.
And just on that thing that happened in Singapore, what was his reaction to that? And did it at all have the chance of escalating or, anything spiraling out of control, or did he just sort of take it on board and walk off?
Nah, honestly, man, he knows deep down inside. Being honest, man to man, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying the truth. He knows that he doesn't want to fight me. He knows that I'm a better fighter than him. He knows that if he got in the octagon with me, I would embarrass him. So, he kind of just curled up like the little bitch that he is, and he just took it like a bitch because that's what he is. He's my bitch. And I said the same thing. I said, hey, if we're in jail, this motherfucker will be doing my laundry because he's a bitch.
Wow, that's an awesome line. And speaking of lines, Colby, I have to ask you this because you posted this crazy thing on Twitter a few months ago. I think it was in March, where you did a mock of Rafael's Gmail account and some of the emails he sent and received. And honestly, it was one of the funniest and most creative things we've seen in a long time. I'm just curious, how did it come about? Did you make it yourself, or was it your manager who made it, or what's the story there?
Dude, all I gotta say is that dude should keep his shit more tight and locked, man. It's not my fault I was able to get a hold of his email account.
Oh, that's hilarious. Look, I mean, we know what's been going on in the division. Things are switching and changing all the time. But do you still want to fight him? Or are you looking forward now to someone who's ranked above you?
At the end of the day, I'm definitely looking forward to someone that's above me. I want to fight for a title. I've made no, I haven't held back in saying that. I feel like I'm ready for it. I've well prepared my game, and it's more well-rounded than it's ever been. And I feel on top of my game right now. I want to fight the best guys in the world because I know I can beat them, and I know I can beat them pretty easily. So, if the fight is presented, I'll take the fight, man. I told the UFC, man, they know I'll sign the dotted line if he wants to step up, but he don't want to step up, man. He's sitting on the sidelines. He's probably getting fat because he doesn't got steroids anymore. But, I mean, I would love to fight. He's a former champion. It's going to look good on my resume when I knock him out. But he's not going to take the fight, man. He's gonna sit and be like a little diva, entitled. Oh no, I want this. I want Nate Diaz. Oh, I want Nick Diaz. Like, he's calling for the Diaz bros like a fucking idiot. Those guys don't even want to fight, man. Why don't you fight someone relevant that's in the division right now and ahead of you in the rankings and And why don't you fight him to see if you want to get to a shot? He don't want to. He's a scared little bitch. So, I'll take the fight any day, man. I hope I get Rafael dos Anjos. I would love that fight.
And just speaking of things that are happening in your division, this past weekend we saw Gunnar Nelson lose over there in Scotland. What was your thought on his loss, and did it sort of change your perception as to who you'd want out of him or possibly Santiago?
Yeah, it was crazy. I thought that maybe the UFC was going to set me and Gunnar up next because they thought he was going to win or something, but Santiago was able to get in there and win. But, it was kind of weird. Gunnar was making excuses after the fight. He got poked in the eye, but my buddy just sent me like a little gif of like the thing, like after he dropped, he wobbled Santiago with a hook. Santiago put his hands out and poked him pretty good, like a couple of times. So I was like, wow, that was a little weird. That was a little sketch, So, he was able to get the win and the knockout, but it was a weird ending and weird fight. But the thing is that Santiago's that American top team. I trained with him. I don't know how that puts us, but if he's in the way of my title, this is a one-man sport. So if he gets in my way, man, I'm not scared to fight him, dude. I know that's a pretty easy matchup for me. So
you're a man who seems like he studies the division a lot. When you look at the names, let's make things a little bit easier. I mean, you said that Neil Magny, that fight doesn't seem like it's going to happen. You sort of doesn't seem like RDA is going to fight you either. So are there any names that stand out to you when you look at the division? Obviously, that Carlos Condit fight doesn't look like it's going to happen. Anyone you have your eye on in particular to make the matchmaking a lot easier for the UFC?
Dude, the UFC knows I'm the easiest guy to match up with because I've never turned down a fight. I've never not showed up to a fight. I showed up to 4 of my fights injured, man. Broken foot, fractured rib, torn MCL against Brian Barberena. Dude, I show up to fight every fucking time. They know I'll sign the contract to fight anybody in the fucking world. I'm not scared to fight anybody. Let's fight. I want to fight them all anyways. I know I'm the best. I'm not worried about who I fight. So whoever the UFC gives me, I'm going to take. But at the same time, I'm looking for those guys in the top 5. Cerrone, Lawler, Condit. Whoever's ahead of me, this is a sniping tour. I'm going to snipe them down and embarrass them one by one to the title.
Have you had a chance to try and ask the UFC to potentially fight Stephen Thompson when his knee is 100%? And if you have, what has the response been there? Is he someone that you'd like to fight? Because seemingly he is right up at the top of the division, but he will be ready soon, and there's not really a fight there for him yet.
Yeah, Stephen Thompson, he's not going to get a title shot since he's already gotten 2. So I would love to fight the guy. I asked the UFC for him too, but, I think they're going to do Stephen Thompson versus my buddy Jorge Masvidal. So, I think they're going to make that fight when Stephen gets healthy. But, I would love to get Stephen Thompson. I'm looking for that fight that gets me the #1 contender spot and ready for a title shot. Anybody ahead of me, man, they're all going to get embarrassed one by one. This is the embarrassment tour, and this ain't just words, man. You're about to find out the truth soon. I promise you that.
And just on Jorge, Colby, just curious, because he is your best friend, is he the exception if the UFC try to match you up with Jorge? Would that be the one fight that you would sort of look at and say, look, no, we're too close to do that, or is Jorge sort of on the list as well?
No, dude. Jorge's my best friend, dude. Like, he's the only exception. I don't got any other friends. Jorge's like my only friend, man. If you knew the stuff we've been through, just through this MMA journey together, we've been at the lowest of lows, and that's my best friend. That's the only guy, like, we would only fight for a title. We've talked about it. Like, that's the only guy. If the UFC is going to throw money for us, we're only fighting for a title. We're not going to, it doesn't make sense to fight in the division in the top 10 because we're best friends. We train together every day. So, yeah, he's the exception, man. We're not going to fight. The only fight that we'll ever do is if it's for a title.
What's the story there, Colby? What makes you and Jorge so close? Like, if you had to name one example, if someone's like, why are you guys best friends? What's a story that you've been through together that made you guys, I guess, bond so close?
Man, just the sacrifices we made for each other to help each other out, MMA is a tough journey, man. There's not a lot of money in it in the beginning, and 7-8 years ago when we were struggling to get fights, my first couple fights, man, I was making $500. Two professional fights, I got paid. I didn't get paid. It was free. I had to fight for free just to give the other guy my ticket sales so he would fight me. So, we were living together in an apartment for a year, and we grew up together pretty much, in this MMA journey. And we went through a lot together, and just the struggles that we've been through together, it's made us so much stronger. And, we've had these crazy dreams, we always knew that we were going to be #1 and #2 in the world. And it's closer than ever right now. And I promise you that we're the 2 best guys in the division. So.
Well, UFC 214 has a lot of possible opponents for you depending on what happens during the event. Of course, Donald Cerrone versus Robbie Lawler, and we've got Demian Maia taking on Tyron Woodley. So out of those potential opponents, I mean, away from the champion, is there a particular fighter or a fight you'll be keeping a very close eye on to see who you might possibly fight next? And will you be there at UFC 214 to possibly challenge someone live?
Yeah, I'm going to go to UFC 214 and check it out. I'm looking for all those guys. If Demian Maia loses, if he wins, whatever, I want to fight Demian Maia. That's a pretty easy style matchup for me. You look at what Rory McDonald did to him, and I'm a little bit better version of Rory McDonald. So, the loser of Cerrone Lawler, because they might give them the title shot to the winner of that next. So I'll take the loser if it's Cerrone, if it's Lawler, either one, dude. I want that big fight. So I'll have my eyes on those guys, and I'm not gonna be a dick. I'm not gonna go out there and challenge them live. They got their fights to worry about, so I'll let them worry about that. But as soon as they're done, then they better be ready for me, because I'm coming.
Wow. And talk to us about Maia, because, you've spoken about how you love to take guys down and take their soul. And obviously, Demian Maia is a guy who kind of likes to do that as well. What do you think about him as the next challenger? And who do you think wins out of that one between Woodley and Maia? Who are you expecting to have their hand raised at the end of the night?
Man, that's an interesting fight, because Tyron Woodley, he doesn't have very good jiu-jitsu defense. Like, his jiu-jitsu is pretty whack, to be honest. I've rolled with him a couple times on the ground, and his submission defense is pretty loose. It's pretty bad. So if Maia gets his back, he'll definitely finish him. If he gets him to the ground, which he could, maybe he pulls guard and does some shit and he does some tricky stuff and gets to the back, he'll definitely submit Woodley. But, Woodley's a pretty good wrestler. He's average, he's decent. He's a breaker mentally. He's a quitter, and he can't go hard. That's why he doesn't wrestle anymore. But he has pretty good takedown defense, and if he keeps it on the feet, he has an advantage in striking, because Demian Maia is one-dimensional. He only knows how to take guys down and submit them. He can't fight on the feet. He's scared to punch. He's scared to get punched. So, I think it's a toss-up, man. I think Maia could get him down and finish him, and submit him, and Woodley could also, be explosive, maybe catch him with the right hand. So, that's a toss-up fight, but, I'll probably go with Maia. I think he'll get him down and submit him.
I'm curious. You mentioned how he's a quitter and he doesn't want to wrestle anymore. What do you mean by that? I'm just curious what you mean.
He's just mentally weak, man. In the wrestling world, it's mentally weak. He's a breaker. That's what we call it. He breaks. Mentally, he's not there, man. He's an explosive, athletic athlete, but he's not a fighter, a true fighter. He's not a warrior. And it showed in wrestling, it showed in college, it shows in the training room. He doesn't like to go hard. He doesn't like to grind with the guys, because he can't do that anymore, man. He's older, his body's breaking down, and he doesn't have a cardio gas tank. That's why you don't see him wrestle really in fights anymore. He took down Thompson like one time in 2 fights, and Thompson's the easiest guy to take down in the division. The guy he'll fall over if you blow wind on him. So, I just think that Tyron Woodley has no gas, and he's a quitter, man. If you get him in a tough fight, he will quit. I promise you that. But, you got to make him work. You got to put him up against the fence. You got to get in the clinch. You got to elbow. You got to knee his body. You got to wrestle, make him feel that lactic acid in his arms, the buildup from having to sprawl and defend takedowns and get in hard grappling exchanges. That stuff's not easy, man. That's the toughest part of the game. So, that's why I say he's a quitter, because you get him in a tough fight, man, that guy will melt within 3-4 rounds.
Wow. Colby, really appreciate the time you're giving us. We'll let you go in just a moment. I have to ask, though, because you've obviously called out Tyron before after your fight in Singapore, and, you've been pretty uncensored when speaking about him, which is kind of crazy, because obviously Jorge is your training partner, and you guys are best friends, whereas Tyron, it kind of seems pretty contrasting. Why the call out despite being, teammates with Tyron?
He's not my teammate. What are you talking about? He's not. I don't believe he's my teammate. He trains at Duke Rufus, man. He left American Top Team 3-4 years ago, and he's been training most of his time at Duke Rufus. So I don't consider that guy a teammate. We don't train together anymore. We used to back in the day when he was at American Top Team, but he does most of his training camps at Duke Rufus. Yeah, he'll come to American Top Team and show face because he's trying to keep it cool here. He knows there's a lot of young up-and-coming studs like me and Jorge who he does not want to be in that octagon with. So, he's not my teammate, man. I don't consider that my teammate. He's an enemy now.
And I mean,
enemy number one.
You've spoken about how you guys used to train for a while back. What were those training sessions like? What was it? Describe what was it like sparring with Tyron, and in the grappling training and stand up, did you get the better of him? Was it a close one? What do you remember from doing that with him?
I just remember it being easy. I was like, dude, this guy is so pathetic, dude. He's like, he doesn't like it tough. He doesn't like things hard, you know. He doesn't like relentless pressure on him. When he feels pressure, he breaks. Like, just sparring with him, you know, all I had to do was throw combinations and just fucking get on the inside with him, push him against the cage, and literally he'd be broken within 5 to 7 minutes. The guy, he just doesn't like it tough, man. I'm a diva, I'm this, I'm the UFC champ, I'm doing movies, like, I'm a pretty boy, like this and that. He's not a real fighter, man. I'm telling you, he's going to get exposed soon. I promise you that. It wasn't competitive. Like, when we're on the ground grappling, his submission defense is real bad. It gets him in submission. When we wrestled, I took him down pretty easy. He couldn't take me down. When we sparred, I just put the pressure on him, got on the inside, you know, and he hated that. He just hated it where he had to make those big muscles have to work, because you need oxygen to get those muscles to work. And when you get those muscles tired, he falls over and breaks. So, you know, it wasn't very competitive. I'm very excited if I can get that matchup in the near future, and I will be very confident. And I'm sure the odds makers will probably make me the favorite too.
Wow, I'm not going to lie, Colby. We're very excited to see you back in the octagon as soon as possible. And given what you've gone through, obviously, given the breaks in between, obviously sooner is better. So let's make it easy for them. Let's make it easy for the matchmakers. As we let you go, you're on this embarrassment tour. Do you have any message to the welterweight division? Anything you want to say to all the contenders and potentially your next opponent who might even be the guy fighting in a couple of weeks, UFC 214?
You guys are pathetic. Step your fucking game up.
Well, there you guys go. Make sure to follow Colby on Twitter and Instagram at Colby Cov MMA. And we can't wait to see what fighting to get next. Thank you so much for your time and coming on to Submission Radio. Have a great day. Thanks, Colby.
Much love and respect, guys. Have a great night.